All right. So let us get started here. Okay. Do 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 do. All right. Here we are. Make sure we are live. All right. That looks good. All right. So we should also be live on Facebook today. We are gonna. We'll give that a try. See what happens. Um, so we'll see what goes on there. And just so you know, if you're watching on Facebook, I'm not going to be watching any comments over there, just because I haven't set up my aggregator that lets me put all my comments together. So that will not be available. But if you do want to talk to me, let me know you're here, and all that fun stuff. Please, please, please do so on the YouTubes. I'm just going to go share this out real quick. Put it out to the Twitter universe. Illustrator. Straight. Let's try spelling right here. Nice. Illustrator work. Designing a t-shirt and printing it out. Let's spell t-shirt right. Let's put the link in there, and away you go out into the ether. All right. So in any event, meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice, we are going to do some stuff. Now I have set up today on the stream. I have some Illustrator work that we're going to do. We're going to spend a little bit of time working on that, which I think will be pretty cool. And then we'll definitely get that done. I think that'll be good, and go from there. So let me see here. This, I need to change one setting so that you guys can see what I see, because that will be helpful. There we go. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go to Illustrator right off the bat, because whenever you're designing t-shirts, the process is going to be, we're going to build it in Illustrator. Then we're going to reverse it, mirror it. Hopefully I remember. That tends to be one of those things I forget frequently, to be honest with you. I waste a lot of material because of that. I have a little Post-it note that sits right here. It's going to let me know to pay attention to that. And then we are going to iron it on a t-shirt. We'll see how long we have with time and everything. Maybe we'll do a second one, because I have a test print I want to do for my ChrisCon shirt. When ChrisCon happens, we'll go from there. Now let's go over here to I want to want to be able to see what's going on with you guys. So I'll put that right there. All right, we'll come into Illustrator and let me let you guys so you can see that. There you go. So what's going on with this is that we have the I have an artboard I started. It's just a pretty standard 8.5 by 11 artboard. Nothing too crazy at all. But what that's going to do is that is going to basically be my kind of guide that I went and I hunted down what would be a good option. So that's what we have with the Chesapeake system here. So this is actually going to be the t-shirt. So my Cricut can print on a 12 by 12 media. Now that's going to be a little ridiculous if I want to build a shirt that's going to be that big. So you don't need it. Also, generally speaking, it wants an error margin of error around 1/2 inch. So it kind of doesn't even matter in any event. So we just want to get close to that. Now, how big do I want this? The nice thing about Vector, I don't have to think about it. Vector is completely scalable, so it doesn't matter at all. It'll scale completely to whatever we decide to put with it. So let me finish hooking up my microphone real quick. I'm going to. I forgot I have to walk. All right. So what you don't need to hear is me rustling around, resetting that microphone. So I just turned it off for a second. All right. So let's get back to this. So we're gonna start in Illustrator. I downloaded the reference photo already. You can see it here. That's this Chesapeake system. So Chesapeake in Ohio is a railroad. And that's really what this shirt's going to be designed around. One of the colors that's generally associated with it is this royal blue. Yellow is typically associated, and pale light blue is also associated with it. So for this, I want to go with a pale light blue shirt that I have already ordered and picked out. So it is going to be sitting right. It's going to be sitting right here. You can see this guy pretty good, right? It's a little darker because it's going to be a white background, right? So white needs to show up on it. If it was too pale, then that would not happen. So we're going to make sure that we have a good fit for that. But what I like is there are two ways that this logo has been used. They have a C and an O that has been pretty classic. And then we have this guy here, and I love the sleeping cat. I just think that that is pretty cool. And that became the C. So what the logo actually looks like is kind of, it's got this C here with the word Chesapeake next to it. So I think that that's going to be the best choice for our logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to design this real quick. I want to draw the cat logo. We're going to do that. I'm just going to show you how I trace it using this. I'm not using anything fancy like my ArtStation today. This is just my standard desktop with a mouse. So, you know, you don't have to have crazy gear. But what I am going to notice is if it's going to be Chesapeake and I'm going to spell that out, I need to have a landscape piece of paper. So I'm going to go down here to my artboard, and up here I'm going to click this, which will give me, my artboard will now be landscape. All right. Artboards took me a little while to get used to, but now that I'm used to them, I love them. All right, so here we got a couple elements. So if you look at this word Chesapeake, you can probably tell that back then they didn't have fancy typesetting computers and things like that. They probably didn't even have Letraset, which is like a dry transfer. So these kind of things had to be done by hand, and you can kind of see that a bit here. If you look at the E, they're a little different and things like that. So that's very classic, but that's not exactly, like, I don't know that that's what I want. I don't know if I want that kind of look. So we'll see when we get there, but I did some hunting around to try and find a few fonts that might be applicable for it. So let's just start by getting this logo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and we are going to lock this guy because we just want to make sure that it's, as I'm trying to do things around on top of it, I don't want to keep accidentally grabbing it. So that would suck. So let's go over here, grab an ellipse. I can also hit the L key, and we're going to draw our first circle. Notice here, if I hold Shift, constrains it to an actual circle, and if I hold Alt, it comes out from the center, which we like. All right, now this logo was round, but obviously this one has been warped over time. I think I pulled this off Pinterest, so it wasn't anything crazy special. But let's flip that stroke and fill. I don't really want to fill yet. I just want to work with strokes. All right, let's do white. I think you guys will find that easier to spot. Well, maybe not. Let's do red. All right, we can always change that later. All I care right now is about building shapes. That's going to be our key. So I'm going to take this shape. I'm actually going to hide it. I'm going to do a new layer because it'll just get in the way. So let's go in here, and you can see this little key cat. I like it. We're going to grab the pen tool. Now, the pen tool scares a lot of people, and that's completely fine. It scared me for a very long time until I kind of really figured out what's going on with it. And you don't need, I actually find Illustrator easier to use if I don't use my tablet, just because that's more of an artistic tool. This is more of a precision thing to me. Doesn't have to be that way for everybody. So let's trace. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make points. You can trace one of two ways. You can, if you're really good with the pen tool, you can probably make this happen and you can do things with it. I'm not that good with it, so the actual use of it. So I'm going to just start clicking. And I'm going to click wherever there's a corner. I want to click there. And if there's going to be a compound or complex path, I'm going to click there. So you're going to follow me around. This red line will draw. See how I just have this nice gentle bow and it comes down here? So let's pick that valley, go out to the end of the ear. Now this ear this one's definitely curved corner. So we'll click at the beginning of the curve and the end of the curve. Come down to like his little head. All right, now if you want, I could probably make that happen with one single stroke. I could put a point up here, but this is a nice even arc, so that's going to be pretty straightforward to recreate. Let's come out here. Now we got this is like where this pillow is a little complex. So we're going to go up to the high point, the low point, down here before the curve, on the other side of the curve. We're just going to kind of pick the high points as we bring this paw around. All right, and I'm picking these points for a reason, and the more you use the pen tool, the more comfortable you'll be getting to see where they happen, right? It takes a little getting used to, like what you can actually pull off. And we'll come out here, and then we're just going to close our path. All right, so that's our are very, very, very rough outline. But let's get back to it. So I'm gonna continue to work in outlines so that you guys can see the path as it develops. That's cool. Yes, sir, Mr. Tony Fryer. I'm making a t-shirt today, and we're gonna use the Chesapeake system as it's gonna be my logo. This is gonna be my shirt for Thursday. I thought that would be appropriate. And since it's it's a local favorite railroad, so I mean, the Pennsylvania would also be a good call. All right, so we have our path. The tool that you can grab the direct selection tool, but you can see here it just kind of grabs and moves things around. That's not cool. So what I want to do is go down to my pen tool again and pull the little flyout window and get the anchor point tool. This is the Shift C will get us that tool. So now, whenever I click on an anchor point, it's gonna draw out some Bezier handles here. You can kind of see what's going on. So this will allow me to just kind of gently warp. Now I work one side at a time, and you can grab each individual side like that. If you click on that side, and then we just kind of do this gentle curve. See, now we're starting to get the nice curves we were looking for. All right, you can also just grab, let's go back. I can grab this and just kind of pull it a little bit. All right, and like see that kind of gives me that little bend up there that we have. And maybe we want to smooth this corner out. So I can grab a little bit of a handle there, and that'll, oh, see, too much. All right, it should be just like a nice little bump, right? And then we'll grab this and kind of fill that out. That way it kind of gives us some nice flow. Let's zoom in so you all can see what's going on. So this corner here, if I just grab that with this tool and pop it up, that'll give me that curve around that end of that ear tip. You can grab each handle individually as well. All right. Our stroke weight's almost a little big because it's causing me to struggle to see exactly what's below it. So let me drop my stroke weight down. There we go. Because I don't want to get goofy. Now, if I hold A, or I'm sorry, Control, it will allow me to move the direct access tool around, which that basically, it's a direct selection, allows me to move individual points along the path. All right, see there's a little sharp on that edge, right? I think it's just kind of a little imperfection that the kitty has here. So let's, we're just gonna take it, there we go. Just kind of comes in a little bit, all right? Now, if you ever click on a point, after you've kind of made some tweaks and adjustments to it, it'll reset it back to 0. So it'll go to a hard edge and it'll pull all the Bezier handles in. So be careful. If you need to click on something, click on the path that you want to work on. All right. And if you want to, generally I tend to find like I move my anchor points around a little bit because maybe I wasn't too happy with them when I initially drew it. So now I can just kind of massage them around. This is probably the hardest part, is getting this ear right, because I think it's kind of a crucial part. This is what lets you know it's a cat, right? It's a little imperfect, and it's totally cool. All right, so this guy. The other thing, if you're trying to recreate something in nature, nature generally doesn't deal with right angles. You know, like every line is going to have a little personality and a little slight curve to it. So, you know, as you do something like this that you're tracing, that's more of a, supposed to be something that's living like this. This is obviously supposed to be a cat. It's not supposed to be stylized. I'd love to know the story, but I bet you it's probably somebody's personal cat who either designed the logo or worked for the company. So it looks like it was like maybe even sitting in someone's lap when the photo is taken or something. Let's just soften this corner a little bit before we go dragging that up and out. All right, and then this handle here just needs to come around. All right. So just, you know, kind of gets a little, I just want to kind of flirt on that edge. All right. But I know the pen tool is a little scary, but it's not that bad. All right, we're gonna space bar move around here real quick. Then we're just gonna soften that ear up over here a little bit. Let's take a little edge off that corner. Oh, see how it straightened out our line again? Because we gotta grab this handle, come back up. It's probably like people at home who use Illustrator probably go nuts with my technique, but you know, it's whatever works for you, buddy. I'm fine with it. It's also, you know, sometimes a little easier. I think sometimes if you want to trace things, tends to make life a little easier. All right, just kind of getting in, finding out the details here. So how are things going out there in the world? You guys having fun? Trying to keep some normalcy going on. I know I am. I got good friends helping me do that. All right. Yeah, I don't like how that one's working there. Let's just do that way. Yeah, I like that a little better. I don't know if I believe you, Jeff. But I mean, you know, who am I to argue with Wikipedia? All right. Let's see. We're in the home stretch here. I'm just going around cleaning this up. All right. Let's come down here to the little elbow he's got going on. Sometimes you can have too many points, and if you do, then, you just grab the pen tool and it'll turn into a little minus arrow, and you can just delete them if you have to. Same thing if you need to add one. Maybe you decided that the curve got a little out of hand and you didn't put enough points in. Completely doable. Completely doable. All right. So there's our outline. All right. So now what we're gonna do with this is we now have our circle, we now have our outline, we have our shapes. That's really all that matters. I am going to let's hide the Chesapeake logo here. All right, now let's convert these to a filled path, okay, instead of a stroked path. Same thing with our circle, but let's make that a different color so you all can see it. And what we're going to do is we're going to flip the fill and the stroke. So there's no stroke on the outside of the path. It's just completely filled in. All right, so that looks pretty good, right? But here's the thing. If we look at the original logo here, let's turn that back on. See here how it's like literally just one piece, right? Like the C is one piece. It's not these two components. So what that is that's what it's called a knockout, right? Like we want to knock out the cat that's in the center of the logo. So what we're going to do, and this is why we do this in Illustrator. You could do it with Photoshop, but stuff like this is just Illustrator. Once you get comfortable with it, makes this super, super easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to select I accidentally locked them. We're going to select the cat and our circle, and then let's see, I don't have the right, in cleaning up my my tablet here, I got rid of that. So let's go to, we want to select the Pathfinder tool. So this tool, let me pull it out. This tool does cool things with paths. It lets them work together. So you can unite them. So I could turn this into one huge path. But what we want is minus front. So that there's two layers here. There's the circle and then there's the cat. If I minus the front, it will take that and it will knock it through. So watch what happens. Boom. Done. All right. Now, if you want to keep that non-destructive, maybe you want to use the cap for something else. You know, just make a quick copy of the layer and set it aside, which I'll do by alt dragging them. I'll turn them off. That way I have them if I ever want to use them for another project or something. It's a little easier to then use that model and recreate it, right? So let's go do it back. We're going to select those two things again. So I can select them over here by pushing these circles and then shift clicking, or I can click and drag the whole thing. Either one works. And knock that out. So there we have our logo. Now I can control the fill and stroke just like we were just doing, but now it considers it all one path, which is pretty darn powerful. Now for the sake of ease, we'll make it a solid black path here. Okay, the green you see is the actual outline of the path. It's not the color or anything on it. All right, so let's see, moving on. So we have that. Now we need to get chassis. Now this has kind of this chassis system type underneath it. And like we talked about when I started, this is literally hand lettered. Like there were people, this is what they did. Typesetting in the olden times was literally drawing lots of lines and painting it and drawing it and drawing it and painting it and doing all that thing over and over and over. I know that because the E's are all different. The T is completely, I've never even seen that kind of a T in a font that I've used. So what I did was I went hunting for a font that at least kind of gave me the same vibe. And maybe we can tweak it too if we need to, but let's go see. So we're gonna look at our whole picture here. We'll keep this up here. Now I'm gonna shrink it down just a little bit for our reference, right? So this now forms our C for chassis, okay? And maybe it's big, I don't know, we'll see as time goes on. So let's, the font I found, so we'll write chassis. Let's make that probably about as big as it needs to be, right? All right, and then we will probably, oh, I'm thinking that's going to be about 150 points, so let's check that out. Yeah, it might even need to be bigger. Let's try 200 points. All right, there we go. So you can see here how that kind of works, right? All right, let's change our artboard. It's not a big problem, just makes our life easier. All right, I'm not going to write system on it. I don't think we need to do that, and I think it's kind of a little, what's chassis? Why is there a cat? I think that's kind of a little more fun anyway. All right, but let's look at this font. So the font I found is called Josephine, and I think that we'll do this semi-bold because it's definitely a bold one. Now it's not perfect, and it's because it's a little. I kind of like it, but see how the E is doing similar things, right? Than the other was, but it's a little spaced out. It's a little too far, so let's go fix the kerning. Easiest way is on this little slider right here. We can kind of pull it in. Minus 50, I think, is going to be good. All right. Now the other thing here is you can kind of see that the chassis is almost a little taller than our font. So the easiest way to kind of start playing with this font is going to be to convert it to outlines. So object, path, and then what we can do is we can just create the outlines. So the other way to do it is go here and hit create outlines. And it turns all that text into outlines. It's non-editable, but once you've typed Chessie, you don't need to edit it again, so it doesn't matter. But now we can play with all the letters individually, and we can kind of treat them and, you know, kind of, look, see, we can make them a little taller because it kind of looks right. If we want to make the letters a little thicker, we could add some stroke to it, and we could make them like a little huskier. So you can take a regular font and you can play with it. One thing I'm noticing here is like the I. If we want to play here and get like really technical and really kind of farting around with this, let's do that. You know what? Let's do it. I want to have some fun. So we're going to select our word here. Now this is all grouped, and you can see like when I click on it, we're going to Control-Shift-G, and that will break it up. So now I can edit each thing individually. See? But what we're going to do is we're going to twist that E. We're going to rotate it, right? Because if we look at the if we look on the actual logo, it kind of is skewed a lot higher and steeper on that piece of that letter. There's an actual word. They actually call these things all individual items. But I do not know what that is. And then the I here, same thing, it's still grouped together, but the I, you can look at the bottom here of the Chessie, this guy here, the I is actually, the dot is huge compared to the stalk of the letter, right? But the letter's consistent with the H, so that's our kind of our guidepost. When I went looking for this font, I looked for two things. I looked for that E to see if there was something that had a nice crisp edge that we could play with, and that S. Did the S kind of scoop around on itself? Those were the two keys I looked at. We're going to ungroup, same way, Control-Shift-G, and now, oh, doesn't want to. So I can go at it, it's not grouped, it's a different thing. So let's double click it, and then we can enter isolation mode where we're only playing with it. We're just going to make this just a little bigger. And then we'll center it. All right, that's almost a little too big. Boom. So what do we think? We like that, yeah. I want to shrink that a little more. Got a little carried away there. If you're having trouble getting like really, really fine detail, just kind of zoom in. You can usually get a little more work. There you go. All right. Now I could spend some time if I wanted to make each of these letters specific. Like if you look here on the E, see how it kind of, RE kind of loops in the tail a little bit, and their E is kind of straighter. So I think we can do that pretty easily. So let's zoom in on RE. Now if I A with direct selection, I can actually grab the points of this E just like I was doing when we drew our kitty cat, and then I can kind of drag them. So there's two things that are causing that point. Number one is that it goes up. Number two is this handle here is controlling the approach of the path in. So if we straighten that handle out, actually let's tuck it back in the point. You can see what happens. It squares it up. All right. This same thing down here, like this one just needs to come down a little bit, and then let's kind of give that handle a little bit of a, don't cross the line because then it'll go concave on us. But let's tuck that in. So there, how's that look? That looks, see how that's a little less swoopy? Let's see our other E. See how that kind of has that nice little yank right at the end, and now ours kind of looks a little more blocky. So I'm going to take this E, trash it, and I'm going to grab this E, and then Alt-click and drag, and I'm going to hold Shift, and then that will make a copy, and then drag it. E means it'll stay on the same horizontal axis as I drag it across. All right, now I can also do the S's, same thing, like the S's, the tails, if you look here, they're a little straight and they're almost in line with each other. They're like, if I were to draw a line here, see how they kind of, they're pretty close to being in line together. So, you know, here you can kind of see that, oh, they kind of go a little further either way. And this, I'm just nitpicking here, guys and girls. I'm just doing detail work. So let's, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did with the E, and then we're going to actually drag that point back, just like that. All right, now if you want some fine tunes, you can down click and things, but as you can see right now, it's not happy with me. And that's mostly because it's so close to that other point. So there we go. Now we see, that looks much better than its brother right next to it. So let's do the same thing down below. We're going to grab you. We're going to tuck your little tail in. Your little Bezier handle is going to go in. Same thing with you. And then we're going to drag it down. All right. And now if I draw a line here, right, we're pretty close. So let's continue our work here. I think we're just going to take these points. Oops. We're going to A-click these 2 points, and what's going to happen is they'll move together now. And we're just going to put that right there. All right, and then let's get rid of our little guideline. All right. Now that is caused by this point here. The Bezier is kind of sticking out. Same thing with this guy. Let's roll that handle back, and that'll dull that curve out. There we go. Right? See now that, how do we feel about that? See, it's much better. It's a little closer. Now ours kind of also does a little bit of a, kind of does that teardrop look. So can we fix that real quick and easy? All right. So see how this is a little more stationary. So let's select our path. And we're just going to bring this up a little bit. Then we're going to drop this just to kind of take out some of that teardrop look that we're getting. There we go. Now it's a little more regular. Again, I'm not trying to be super, super precise here. All right, the other thing is, let's cant that a little bit. There we go. All right, I dig it. I think that's a good enough facsimile. So we're going to delete the old one, copy ours. If nothing else, it makes ours look a little more unique. All right, and I think it kind of owes homage. I'm not trying to be perfect here. I'm not trying to recreate the exact thing. We're not in that game. But I believe that kind of gives us what we want. Cool, I dig that. I think that's very cool. I'm happy with the spacing of everything, but what I am going to do is I am going to select all of that, and now I'm going to regroup it with Control G. So now it behaves as a single group. And then we're going to put it over here in the mouth of this because I want to see where I want it in height. And it's a little easier to kind of see that if it's actually in the other element. So I want this, the top of this H to kind of come off the top of the cat, or I'd want it to come off this point, but I think that's not what I want. I want it to be, you know, if we're trying to make this look like a C with the cat kind of laying inside it, I think we need to kind of pay homage to the fact that it's a C. So, all right, that's it. That's it. That's all we got to do. So let's save our work. We are going to save this as, I don't know if you're seeing this, probably shouldn't. We're just going to save it on my desktop, and we will call this 18 Chesapeake, Chesapeake shirt. And then we'll call the actual file the Chesapeake logo. All right, so you're not seeing that. Good. All right, now We need to get this in a way that my Cricut software can deal with it. So we are going to export this. We have a couple options. The Cricut software is pretty good about doing simple shapes like this knocked out. But if we want to make our lives super easy, what we're actually going to do is we're going to select the layer 2 that has everything we want on it. And I love this. You guys are in for a treat. This is one of my favorite things. And we're going to select this collect for export. And what that's going to do is that's going to take everything that was on that layer and it's going to export it. So all that's on there is the C cat logo and Hesse. That's it. So even though you look up here, it says layer 2. Let's rename that. This is going to be, if my layer was named, which it should have been, but I'm being quick about this for some reason, it would automatically come over. So every time you export it, you would do that. I can export this in multiple export ways, JPEG, PDF. If I wanted to export it as anything, I can do that, and I can do multiple of them, and I can scale them. Have I told you how much I love Illustrator? What I want to do is I want to do PNG, and 300 dots per inch is completely fine. And then if I wanted to add another file format, I could. Let's go ahead and do it just so you can see it. And we'll add JPEG, add a 2x. Now, if I select the logo, I just hit export. It's going to ask where I want to put it. So I know you can't see this on screen. I am going to go back to my desktop to the Chesapeake file, and I save it. And then boom, it's there. It's there with the JPEG and the PD and the PNG version. Now the PNG version is going to make life even easier when it comes time to load it in the software, and that is where we're going to go next. So let's say hi to y'all, and then we are going to switch over to my Cricut software tab. So let's go over there. So this is basically like a little local thing that runs my Cricut stuff. We'll go select a new project. Now, this is basically, think of this as my artboard. And let's see up here, we're going to go with a new, I'm sorry, we already did new. We're going to upload. Now, I need to upload this image we just did. So I go to upload image, browse. We're going to go back to our desktop, our Chesapeake shirt, and here are the logos we just saved. Now the JPEG, let's bring that one in first just so you can see what it does. So we're going to open that. All right. I always select moderately complex for my logos, just makes life easy. Let's continue. Now, what it wants me to do here is select and erase. So whatever I click on, if I click on this big white space, it's going to knock it out. Okay. So what we're going to do is click in these E's, and then so there are going to be little holes. So got that taken care of. Jeff asked if he could do this in GIMP. Now, I'm not sure. GIMP, as I recall, GIMP is a raster base, so it's more akin to Photoshop. But if there's other vector-based design software, I'm pretty sure that that's completely doable. Very doable. So if we look here now, we can see these corners we need to click out as well. All right, so that is how I knock stuff out for this software. But let's say I don't like that. If I open up the PNG that I saved and I do the same thing, oh, look at that. It already comes pre-knocked out. So I don't have to worry about it. It's just all one layer. And whatever is black, I only really use my Cricut for cutting, but you can do cuts and prints, and you can get crazy with it, y'all. It's a lot of fun. But let's take this guy. Now we are going to continue. All right, now I'm going to save this as a cut image, and we're going to save this as the Chesapeake logo. Boom. Yeah, gee, wonder what I was doing recently. So let's click on that Chesapeake logo and insert it into our project now. And then there it comes. Now this is huge because the DPI is completely different. So what needs to happen is we need to kind of restrict this. So how big do we want this across our shirt? You know, knowing that the largest we can make it would be 11.5, we're going to go with 10. So over here is side with the width. These are locked. There's a little lock here that keeps it, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Let's create that, chop that down to 10. All right, and then that will be our print. Oh, that's centimeters. Oh, well, when did you switch to centimeters? Isn't that exciting? Okay, I was not expecting. I was wondering why my canvas looked off. They just made that change, but I'm not going to fuss with it too much. So let's call it 20 centimeters roughly. I think will be a nice width. So we can convert. That's fine. All right. Then we're going to click on Make It. And then there's our project. Now, I told you I would almost forget. There's this little button over here that says Mirror. And Mirror literally flips the image, because think about what we're doing. We're cutting this out on the transfer that then needs to go on the shirt, and it needs to be flipped because it's not like it's a sticker. It needs to be transposed, heated, and stuck, okay? If it was a sticker or a decal, which I could now make if I wanted, you can't do that. So that's fine. So we're going to continue. Remember to flip it. Let's see if it finds my machine, which I hope it should. All right, looks good. Let's put my screen back up here. I don't want to run into that issue where I run out of audio. All right, so now we're going to basically go here into print mode. So let me, all right. So very good. So now that we're in print mode, let's go over to the camera for our Cricut cam, which I think is kind of cool. Now I've already pre-done I've already set my vinyl on the board. We're going to insert this into my machine. And when I do this, I just lightly hold the back. Push the feed arrow. I'm selected on the vinyl. And then we're going to hit the C button and we start cutting. All right. While you guys are watching that cut, which, come on, it's kind of intoxicating to watch that thing cut. We're going to get the shirt out. I'm going to turn on my iron. So the iron here. I don't want steam, so it's going to be the highest setting without steam. Then we got our t-shirt here. Wow, is it done already? That was a quick cut. It was a very quick cut. All right. Now, when I do this, I always want to make sure my shirt is nice and flat. All right, very good. Unload that. All right. Isn't that exciting? I told you that's kind of cool, right? I dig that. Crickets are fun. All right, so let us, let's see. All right, so now we're back here. So now you can kind of see what we got going on. So this is a sticky mat, holds everything in place. This is our transfer. Now it's really hard to see. It's hard to see in real life. I'm sure it's even harder to see on camera. You can see where it's cut. Now, the sheet I used is a little big. And my 20 centimeters. All right, so it's about there to there. So let's just cut this because this stuff isn't cheap. And you never know when you're going to need it. So I tend to keep a lot of my scraps. Just being very careful not to cut where the logo is. All right. Now this is a fun process that we like to call weeding. And what we do is we start by peeling off the layer first. I usually have a tool that looks like a dental pick, but that's upstairs. All right, there we go. So we want to start by peeling the vinyl off the back. And then I'm just going to drag it at kind of an angle, and it's really, really, really sticky. But you don't want to force it. All right, and we're just going to keep pulling and work around each letter. All right. And you'll see here, sometimes it gets a little tough to get up in the, like the little switchbacks of an S, but you could just take your time and then kind of just feed it along. Wow. This one, this t-shirt's actually pretty simple. There's not a ton of weeding to be done. We literally just have to pull the little centers out of the E's. So let's do that. All right. And I just start pulling around the center of the hole I'm trying to get at. And I just push and then I'll grab it. All right. There we go. It's exciting stuff, right? Okay, so this is our logo. It's backwards, right? Because this will flip and sit. Now another nice thing is this is actually a little tacky. So it might come onto your shirt, so you'll probably want to wash it when you're done. This is what they call a sports decal, which means it's very, very flexible. I have a shirt that I put this on that I've washed over a dozen times, and it's not even cracking. It's doing nothing like that. So it's very high quality. I'm really happy with it, actually. So we're going to put that on. First thing is first is we need to give ourselves a nice, clear, flat surface. So our iron's getting warm. All right. I want to make sure that it's good. Also, the heat, getting some heat into the shirt's pretty good. It's going to help us get that transfer to take even better. So I'm just kind of giving a little preheat. Then we're going to take this and we're going to drop it. All right. Now it's really hard to get precise, but if we kind of look at our corners here, I'm happy with that. All right, so that's going to be our center. So we need one other thing here. Depending on who you watch will tell you you need different things. Like some places say you need to use a towel in between. Some say you need to use other things. Personally, for me, what I like is I just usually use a piece of parchment paper from the kitchen. I know, right? Big surprise. Chris comes at it with a kitchen appliance. All right. Because the hot iron could melt this plastic and then this Teflon sheet, because that's really what parchment paper is. It's Teflon coated. I suppose you could use wax paper too if you had to, but you know, I have parchment laying around. And then we're going to start. We're just going to start going in a nice circle, and we're going to take our time and we're going to push with a nice even pressure. I'm not going crazy here. But I need to get this warm. If you do a lot of these, Cricut actually sells a little t-shirt press that you can kind of just lay on top of it and it'll just go, which is kind of crazy. But hey, it works, right? We're going to do this for about 30 seconds or so. I forget what the instructions say. I suppose I could get them. So we'll leave that on the C. Let me come over here. I will actually be the guy who reads instructions. 30 seconds. It wants 30 seconds unmoved, which this one kind of fits underneath my iron here with very, very, very little movement. The nice thing is this procedure is pretty quick. It doesn't take very long. I dig it. All right, so that's our 30 and then 20 seconds of back and forth, which we've pretty much already done. So I think we're ready to see if she took. So I just grab a corner. And you want to hold the shirt. I don't want this to fold up. All right, and I'm just kind of just rolling this off. All right, got rid of that. And then I'm going to put this back on. All right, and then we're going to do this for another 30 seconds. This is going to really help just kind of get it in there. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, ba, bum, bum. Boo, boo. Sing that song y'all love so much. I dig it. I dig it. This is pretty cool. So I'm definitely excited. I can't wait to wear this with our show on Thursday. It's going to be at noon. So I'm not going to do a Chris Cooks on Thursday. I'm going to do Chris Cooks on Friday. And I think Friday is going to be pizza because I have my neighbors love getting pizza dough from me on Friday. Hi, Doug and Lynn, if you're out there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some pizza dough, and then we'll kind of make some pizza. I think that'll be fun. All right. It's not that hard. If you guys want to get ready for it, you got to get some yeast and get some regular all-purpose flour. Maybe a little semolina. All right, so that's our 30 seconds. Yeah, Tony's like, now you got to run the chassis. All right. So there you go. That be our shirt. So yeah, we'll run that. There you go. So pretty cool. I dig it. I like the size. The size is good. I have one more design I'm going to print because, you know, we got a few minutes. So let's do another one. This one, though, however, I've already done the artwork for. So let's go back to the software, and we are going to cancel out of it. finish. We can delete the chest seat. Now it's still there. If I ever need to print it again, I totally have that ability to do that. All right, now I'm not going to fold that. Just probably a bad idea. All right, I have my board here. We're going to need to do that in a second too. Let me get the vinyl. And our cutter. All right. So Man, my audio's gone out twice now. Don't like that at all. Sorry about that. I don't know when that happened. When I use a walk around mic, I have to use my little Zoom recorder, and it can be a little temperamental. So it's not the best solution, but it gives me the flexibility without having to yell across the room. All right, so all right. I'll tell you what I can do, however. I can switch to, let me do that just so I don't have to deal with it anymore. I don't have to deal with it for the next like 10 seconds you guys are going to be on, because we're almost done. All right, so there you go. So now you have that mic. All right, so now we're just going to peel this back. Again, I'm not ripping it off. Be gentle, because if something starts to stick with this, you want to make sure that you can drop it back down and put some more heat on it. Same thing goes when I'm lifting decals, doing screen printing. You can do that too. I can use the Cricut to make some screens and then print through them old school style with the screen print, which is fun. All right, let's cover that back up. And we're going to do it again. And we're going to wrap this up. So I hope you guys had fun today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you have some fun. If you have any thoughts of anything else you want to see me do, because I do all kinds of crazy stuff, reach out and let me know. I think I'm going to do some cool stuff. So we shall see. We shall see. Wednesday night we got our Fiasco game coming up. Oh, I'm super excited for that. It's gonna be a blast. I just love hosting that stuff. I think it's a trip. And of course I'm always there if we need a fill-in. I can certainly let somebody drop out and then I can hop in if need be. So but this week we're gonna have, let's see, Pep is coming back. He loves doing it. So he's going to come back. I got Leland Steele. I got two pegs. I got Christina and I got Jeremy coming on. I asked Jeremy and then I thought, I should ask Christina. I think she'd be great too. So they're coming on. There we go. And it's the original, so there's no D on the end of that or A or anything. The very, very, very first one. The A showed up at the end of Voyage Home, by the way. A little trivia. We just watched that the other day. Before that, it was just the 1701. But cool. So there we go. So you know what? You hung out through audio outages, through everything. I hope you had some fun. Learn something new. Buy a T-shirt. Have some fun with the iron-ons. If you have a Cricut, I mean, this probably isn't anything new, but I love my Cricut. Now the one I have is just called the Explorer Air 2. It can work over USB, Bluetooth. Now I'll be honest with you, I've not had success with the Bluetooth from my computer, just because it seems to die halfway through, and no. So I literally run, it's way over there, but I run a extra long USB cable to it just to play it safe, because nothing's worse than having a cut just die halfway through. So I don't do that, but the thing's great. If you want one that will cut like balsa wood and stuff, completely doable. You need to get the Maker, which is it's kind of the beefy version, a little more expensive. But these guys are pretty affordable, and I think they're a ton of fun. If you like any kind of crafts, I tell you what, my escape room game has gone way up since I can label everything with like legit, items and things like that. Like the sign I made for the Enterprise dedication plaque is, stuff like that. It's just like, I just put it onto a piece of plexiglass and then used bolts to mount it off the wall, and it looks amazing. So you can have a lot of fun with that. So This turned out to be a Cricut commercial. I'm not ashamed. I love it. So there we go. We got 2 shirts done. I'm going to go do the back side of this. I'm going to put the big logo on the back and have some fun. So thanks for hanging out. I hope to see you guys on Friday. It looks like Friday or Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday seems to be when I'm doing these. So feel free to hop on. At least one of them will be cooking based. Last time I had huge audio issues. Big surprise. It was the same mic. I don't know if something happened to it with the other day with the storm that came through, but maybe we'll switch up the mics, so that's not a problem. But we'll get that up this time. I'll do pasta again. I just don't want it. I'm small chance I might do it week after. We'll see what happens. But hey, as long as we're on lockdown, might as well enjoy it. And remember, reach out to people if you need to. Talk to people, and take care of each other. So until next time, be good, and we'll see you on the next Chris Does Stuff. So have a good one.